إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Greetings to everyone for as I present live here another Friday message on the 15th day of Ramadan. I wanted to start, during this time, many of us are thinking a lot about our families. Many of us are blessed to be able to spend a lot of time with our families. Others of us are unfortunately far away from our families and can't be with them. But in any case, we are certainly thinking a lot about them. And the story that I mentioned in one of our classes earlier this week that came to my mind, and that the more I think about it, the more beautiful I find it, is a story that is told by Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. May Allah be pleased with him and his father. Abdullah ibn Umar, we know, was one of these companions of the Prophet ﷺ that grew up with the Prophet. He grew up knowing the Prophet ﷺ, grew up in the Muslim community where the Prophet ﷺ was a guide from, and he was very close to the Prophet ﷺ and very connected to him emotionally, and of course connected to his father Umar radiallahu an. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he tells a story in narrating a beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He tells a story where Abdullah ibn Umar is sitting in a gathering with the companions and with the Prophet, and the Prophet ﷺ asked a question. Now Abdullah ibn Umar, he notices that before the Prophet asked this question, that someone had brought a plate of dates to the Prophet ﷺ, that brought a plate of dates to the gathering. And Abdullah ibn Umar, as I said, he was very in tune with the Prophet ﷺ, and he was very attentive to everything that the Prophet ﷺ did. So he noticed this, and then he heard the Prophet ﷺ ask, that he asked the people around him, he said, there is a tree that is similar to the characteristics of the Muslim or the believer or the good of a beautiful person. There is a tree that has similar characteristics. And he began to ask the companions, what is that tree? Which tree is that? And none of the companions answered. And Abdullah bin Umar said in his mind that he began to think that it was the date palm tree. So both his understanding and his understanding of Islam and his understanding of maybe what the Prophet ﷺ was getting at was hitting him, but also the fact that he saw that the dates had just come to the Prophet ﷺ, and he began to feel like, I think it's a nakhla, I think it's the date palm tree. But he said, I didn't say anything because I was the youngest person there. And imagine you're in a gathering with people like his father Umar, with people like Abu Bakr, with other top companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and they're not answering. So of course, as a young child, you maybe take the hint that maybe I'm not supposed to answer. But the Prophet, eventually they said, Ya Rasulullah, which tree is it that resembles the Muslim? And the Prophet ﷺ said, the tree is an-nakla, hiya an-nakhla. And you can imagine Abdullah bin Umar, and I think we've all had that experience of being in a gathering where for whatever reason it's very important to us, and for whatever reason we're paying very close attention, and a question is asked and we know the answer and we want to say it, but for some reason we don't say it, and then we find out we were right, and we remember that experience. But what I wanted to share with us today is that Abdullah bin Umar, he's walking with his father later on, and he tells his father, I knew it was a nakhla, I knew it was the date palm tree, I knew that was the answer to the question. And the fact that he told his father that, it just makes me think about relationships between parents and children. It makes me think about family relationships. The fact that he was comfortable after they left the gathering to tell his father in a very, something that clearly meant a lot to him. It was very important to him. He's telling the story now years later. He remembers the story. It meant a lot to him that he knew that answer. And he told his father, he told him, I thought that it was a nakhla. I knew that answer. And his Prophet ﷺ said, if you would have said that to the Prophet ﷺ, if you would have answered the question before he told the answer, it would have been very dear to me. It would have been more dear to me than any valuable thing that we have out here. So subhanallah, this is a beautiful thing. And Umar's reaction, we see not only does he have naturally, he's proud that his son knew the answer, and he's proud that he's intelligent, he's proud that he's paying close attention in the class. But beyond that, he knew that that was important to his son. He knew that his son was very proud of that. And so he affirms him. And he affirms that if it's important to you, it's also important to me. And we care about the same thing. And we care about each other. And we support each other. So I think that is such a beautiful story. Of course, in the substance of the story, the reason why the Prophet ﷺ says that this tree, this beautiful tree, and in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the comparison of a kalimat tayyibah, the comparison of faith, the comparison of the goodly word, the comparison of the true word. He compares it to a shajarat tayyibah, the pure tree, the good tree, the wholesome tree. And so what is it about these trees? What is it about these beautiful blessed trees that the Prophet ﷺ is saying they resemble the characteristic of a Muslim, the characteristic that we should all aspire to, the characteristic that we should strive towards having? And of those characteristics, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on in the Quran, is to say, is that the roots are planted firmly. Asluha thabit. The roots are planted firmly in the ground. وَفَرَوْحَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. And the roots and the branches, they go far up into the sky. The branches stretch towards the sky. So this means that we have to be, in ourselves as people, we have to be firmly planted. We have to be who we are. We have to be planted in where we come from. We have to be planted in what's important to us. And I know many of us in this time are discovering and reaffirming what's truly important to us, what's truly an important message. And beyond that, we are fara' sama, that our branches reach out towards the sky, that what's firmly planted in our hearts and what's firmly planted in our backgrounds, it spreads out and it comes forth in the world and it comes forth in our actions. And those actions, as a good tree does, it has benefits for everyone. It has benefits for everyone. The tree is so beneficial to people. And this is why God says that the people who are most beloved to God are the ones who are most beneficial to others. And during this time, we see the need for people to come and be beneficial for others. And we see the beautiful benefits of people who are beneficial to others. And just like that goodly tree, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, its fruits, it bears fruit in every season. It bears fruit in every situation. The benefits of what it feeds for people, the benefits of the shade that it has, the benefits of the beauty that it has. So not only practical benefits, not only do we bring practical benefits to others, but the person that we want to be is someone who inspires others, who makes others feel something beautiful, who makes others want to be around that person. So these are all the reasons in which the tree can resemble this person that we want to be. The tree can have this similitude to this person that we want to be, and the tree is so useful for people and so beneficial for people. We want to mention briefly, during this time of Ramadan, you know, I was thinking of families, and I was thinking of my own daughter Hajar. She, when we, alhamdulillah, the family, some of the people some of us in the family, we made very nice decorations for Ramadan and put up these balloons and these streamers. And alhamdulillah, it's not much, but it's very, it really is beautiful. And maybe you saw it because I posted it here on Facebook. And it's important, especially in this time when everything's difficult, to make us remind each other that this is a special time and this is a beautiful time and it should be a time that we celebrate. And I remember the first, when Hajar, who doesn't always, remember to say that it's Ramadan or know the exact name or whatever, but I remember the first day when she came out and she saw the decorations and she was just like, it's that time, it's that time. And she was very happy about that. And this is one of the beautiful things of why we have to do for each other in families and in communities. We have to remind each other and encourage each other and inspire each other during times when we may get down or we may forget things, but our enthusiasm can be infectious upon each other. Ramadan, I mentioned, it's the 15th day of Ramadan. Ramadan is a month long. So even though we very commonly say that Ramadan is going by so fast, and indeed it is, it's going by very fast, but it's still long, or 29 days long, because it has an experience. It's not something that's just one thing. Ramadan has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Ramadan is a story. The Ramadan that we experience is not just one thing, it's a journey that we go upon. So we are now in that middle part of that journey, and many of us know in that middle 10 days of that journey, oftentimes you're just trying to, as if you're in a long race, or as if you were in any other endeavor, going to school, any other endeavor that takes a long time to achieve a goal that you want, you settle into the middle phase of it where you just have to keep focusing on putting one foot in front of the other. You have to keep focusing on doing what you need to do. You have to keep focusing on going forward. And inshallah ta'ala, in that, you want to keep your heart open to the blessings that are around you. You don't want to lose sight of that, but you know that you have to just keep going forward. So we are in that time where we have to just keep going forward through Ramadan. One of the things that the Prophet ﷺ said in quoting Yahya ibn Zakaria, John, the son of Zakaria, he quoted him as giving a beautiful speech that contained a lot of wisdom. But one thing that always stuck with me is that he mentions that God ordered for you fasting. And he's talking here to Bani Israel. But this is something that God has told us He prescribed for many different communities and many different traditions. And He's saying that He commands and He orders you to fasting. And then He says, for indeed the parable of a fasting is that of a man who's in a crowd of people. He's a man in a group of people with a satchel. He has a satchel that he's carrying, and in that satchel there's musk. There's beautiful scents. So this man is carrying the satchel with beautiful scents. And that's the similitude that Yahya bin Zakaria, that John is making a parable with the fasting person. So a person who's walking in a crowd or a group of people with that satchel of scents, nobody knows why, but everyone feels better. Everyone can smell the scent. Everyone can smell the beauty and the blessing. Be the fasting person. Fasting should bring out something special in us. Fasting should be something that changes our characteristic. We know fasting, we all talk a little bit that maybe at the beginning when you're hungry there's a little bit, but where you tend to be more, crabby or whatever, but actually what happens when you're fasting is that you lose some of the energy for nonsense. You lose some of that energy for stuff that's not important, but also your feelings and your vulnerabilities and your emotions, they come closer to the surface. And this is actually a beautiful situation to be in, to perceive the ayat, to perceive the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to perceive the beauty in creation, and to perceive the ayat, the revelation of the Quran, and the revelation that Allah gives us in scripture. So we are in this situation where we are more vulnerable, where we're more open, where our emotions are close to the surface, and we can perceive these beautiful things, and we can share our feelings with others. And inshallah ta'ala, we become more generous when we're in this state. We become, as they described the Prophet ﷺ, that he was the most generous of people all the time. The Prophet ﷺ, if someone came to him, he never just said no. He would try to get them whatever he could. And many times if he didn't have what they needed, he would go and borrow it from someone else. Or he would find someone that could give it to him. The Prophet ﷺ was the most generous of people. But when he was fasting during the month of Ramadan, because he was so closely connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that time even more than the other times, and so closely connected to the ayat of Allah and the revelation of Allah, that in this situation, he would become extremely generous. Until he would become, as the hadith says, like that gentle breeze that blows forth over people, and it benefits everyone. So that should be us. That should be us as believers in this time when we're fasting. We should be people who become like that gentle breeze, that we benefit everyone around us, that we're like that person carrying the satchel of musk, that people may not know exactly why, but they love to be in our company, but they find it pleasant to be near us. They find that we make gatherings more beautiful. They find that we make work more beautiful. They find that we make school more beautiful. Whatever encounters we have with them, they find that person who's close to the signs of God, that person who is fasting, they make things beautiful. I want to just, as we head towards closing up this reflection, I just wanted to mention that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Abraham, and we often say Prophet Abraham, who can complain of ibtila? Who can complain of trials after the Prophet Ibrahim? That Ibrahim alayhi salam is one of the best examples in the Quran and in the other scriptures of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings ibtila. He brings these what we often call trials. He brings these, what I want to call today, challenges. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God brings these challenges to people. And God brings challenges not to the people that He doesn't love, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings challenges especially to those that He loves, and especially of those who are close to Him. And if you were to ask, why would Allah challenge those who love Him? Why would Allah challenge those who are close to Him? The answer is that why we call it a challenge. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges people in order to bring them closer to Him. As we always give the example, like a teacher who has a student, or like a coach who has an athlete. You want to bring them challenges. You want to continue to push them out of their comfort zone. You want to continue to try to bring out the best in them. And in order to bring out the best in people, you have to sometimes push them a little bit. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pushes people, He pushes His servants that He loves into difficult situations to bring them closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for us. And this means that we have to be, in this time of fasting and in all other times, in touch with our feelings, in touch with our emotions. And if the challenge that Allah has brought us has made us scared, we should go to Allah and tell us that it makes us scared. If the challenge that Allah has brought us had made us sad, we should go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell us that this has made me sad. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that, and He wants you to come with Him towards it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, that He is the one whose mulk is in His hands, the dominion is in His hands. He can do whatever He wills, but He wishes to give us liyabluwakum, challenge us to see who can produce the most beautiful actions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that in these challenges come the most beautiful of actions. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings those challenges to those of us whom He loves to bring out the beautiful actions in us. As Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he began to get closer to God, and when he began to challenge some of the powers that be in the community where he lived, out of love for them, not out of hate for them, never out of hate for them. Ibrahim alayhi salam loved his father. He loved the people in his community. But when he felt they were doing wrong, he felt he had to challenge it. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he challenged his people and he got closer to Allah, then eventually his people became so angry with him because of his refusal to back down and his refusal to stop speaking the truth, that therefore his people got so angry that, as the way of tyrants and the sunnah of tyrants is, they decided to just use their force to shut Ibrahim up, rather than addressing what he was bringing to them, rather than addressing the beautiful message that he was bringing them. They decided to use force to shut up Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so they built this huge catapult and they tried to put Ibrahim into a fire. They wanted to punish Ibrahim. They wanted to silence Ibrahim. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, in that moment, he became, in that moment of challenge, he became so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that even in some of our narrations they talk about that Jibreel, the angel Jibreel, came to assist Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he it's only with Allah, and he says hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. He says that Allah is enough for me, and I put my full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Ibrahim is one who put his full trust in Allah, that at that moment when they shot him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fire that they put Ibrahim into, we said to the fire, be coolness and safety for Ibrahim. Be coolness and safety for Ibrahim. And so we know the fire that's so hot, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the commentators say that He made it cool. And the only thing that was burned were the ropes and the chains that were around Ibrahim alayhi salam. So the fire burned that, but it didn't harm Ibrahim. And they said if Allah didn't say make it be coolness and safety, that it would have been cold for Ibrahim. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, let the fire be coolness and safety for Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he felt as if he was in a garden. That Ibrahim alayhi salam felt that his time in that fire was the most beautiful time, because he was so close to Allah, and because he knew that Allah was protecting him, and he knew that he was doing what was right. And so he would say later on, they would ask Ibrahim alayhi salam, what was the best about the good old days? Tell us about the times that you really enjoyed. And Ibrahim had such an amazing life and went through so many amazing experiences. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, in some narrations in the books of commentary, he would say, the best days of my life, the greatest days of my life, the greatest time of my life was that time in the fire. That time in the fire when I was so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I felt like I was a garden, even though I was going through the greatest challenge, even though I was going through something extremely difficult. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make that be the case for all of us in this month of Ramadan, in this time of COVID. Whatever fire that you're going through, whatever challenge you are going through, make it be one that brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make it be one that brings out the beauty and the goodness in you, and brings out the benefit in you for others. And therefore make it be a time that even though it's full of challenge, full of difficulties, full of struggles, like many of us can attest, when we look back at our life to the best times of our life, they weren't necessarily the times we were just sitting back relaxing. They weren't necessarily the times when we were just celebrating, but they were the times where we were engaged in struggle, where the times where we know we were doing things that helped others, where there were times where we know we were improving ourselves and getting better. And though they are difficult at the time, we look back and we say that those were the best days of my life. And Ibrahim alayhi salam would say, I wish that every single day of mine was like that day in the fire. I wish that every single day I could be so close to God because of the challenges that He put upon me, and because of the way I rose up to them and came closer to God. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these remaining 2 weeks of Ramadan, in this remaining time of the COVID and the quarantine, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand the blessings of this challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us. May we rise forth to meet it. May we always, always, always think in these times of those people who are vulnerable, of those people who are in need, and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent us and given us every gift that we have, financial, talent, time, emotions, every gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us, it's to be of assistance to those people and getting close for all of us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah bless each of you. I will inshallah ta'ala see you next week again here for the Friday message. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.